Hello, everybody, and I hope you had a good, long Labor Day weekend. I definitely did. Ticats were a winner. We got to watch All In, a massive independent wrestling show. If you're into wrestling, that would be a thing to definitely look at. I also had a review up on my other channel. It's in the description below. Have a look. And let's get into the Ticats versus the Argos that happened yesterday. On Labor Day, I was at the game. It was a really enjoyable game. I was there with my sister, a couple of friends, brother, cousin, his wife, etc. It was a good family / friend outing. Entertaining game that was, it slipped towards the Ticats' favor towards the end, but it was definitely interesting down the stretch, so it kept your eyes peeled. I think this is probably the best game the Ticats have played this season. I think they played, the game was in question. No, they were not dominant, but they showed the ability to come back in the late periods of the game, which is something we saw against Edmonton after the terrible fourth quarter or the second quarter that they had, and delivered. Everything relatively worked well outside of an Alex Green fumble, which the Argos took back for a touchdown, which was a 14-point swing because we were inside the 5-yard line. Pretty much definitely going to put some points on the board, probably a touchdown. So that was a big moment. The downside of the game, and Jeremiah Masoli did throw an interception. But let's start with Masoli. Jeremiah Masoli went in this game a very solid 26 of 35 for 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think he played very, very well. Interception, I would say he played nearly an unbelievable interception, plus the complete lack of a tackle he had on the aforementioned touchdown run off the Alex Green fumble. Fantastic game all around. They mixed the run game up well with the pass game, kept it going, and despite the loss of Jalen Saunders early in the game, they found some things with Luke Tasker and Brandon Banks having big games. Terrence Tolliver was also in on the act as well as getting out Green involved in the backfield. But without Saunders, there's a lot of questions because that's going to be a lot because you've got Williams down, probably for the season. You've got Saunders down right now. He was clutching his right knee after hitting the, I believe, second quarter. Those are 2 big receiving pillars that Tolliver hasn't really, really hoping Tolliver steps up. I don't know where else the other production is going to come from. Who really is the fourth option? Like, Mike Jones starting, but Mike Jones outside of one really good game against Edmonton has been pretty non-factorish, largely most of the season. In fact, in this game, with the injury to Saunders, with the fact that we were feeling Felix Faubert-Lucier instead of other more impactful receiver, kind of was a problem that he was held to 1 catch for 9 yards, and so far this season in 10 games, 23 catches, 355 yards for Mike Jones. A very good average, career bests in yardage, but it's a lot. Like I said, he had the big game against Edmonton, 4 catches, 117. He also had a big game against Calgary, 5 catches, 120. Maybe we can see some of that, but we're talking 0 for 0 against Edmonton in the first time we played them. 2 for 21, 3 for 22, 2 for 20, 4 for 36, 1 for 6, 1 for 4, 1 for 9. The idea that he's going to be really that fourth option, or possibly even third option if they can't get something going with Masoli and Tolliver, it's a little disturbing, and it's a little bit questionable at this point with Saunders and Williams down. But still, the passing game tonight was really on. Luke Tasker had a massive game, catching 8 catches for 143 and a touchdown, 9 for 135 to Brandon Banks with 2 TDs. 3 for 29 to Alex Green, 2 for 27 for Saunders before getting injured, and the targeted player was Felix Faubert-Lucier, who had nothing. On the ground, it was the Alex Green show, carrying the ball 18 times for 115 yards, including 2 touchdowns. A big day for him. So 5 touchdowns, something that the Ticats have admittedly been struggling with. By the way, Alex Green is ripping it up this season. 4 games, 68 carries for 356 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's already exceeded his touchdown count from last season. Granted, he only played 6 games last season, but he was 6 games, 79 carries, 447 yards, and 5 touchdowns last season. So he's already exceeded his touchdown count and will set career highs without a doubt if he stays relative. So far this season, he's gone over 100 yards now, back-to-back games. He had 104 against Edmonton, now 115 here. Held to. somewhat paltry numbers in his first 2 games, including being held to under 4 yards a carry by Winnipeg. So he's finding a flavor for himself, getting more involved in the offense, and I think that's going to be nothing but a good thing, particularly as we stated that the receiving core is a little bit banged up. Leading the way on the defensive side of the ball, it was Delvin Breaux. He left this game due to a possible concussion. He was on the sidelines trying to amp up the crowd, trying to get things going. He had 5 tackles at the time of he left the game. Don Unamba also finished the game with 5. And, of course, the interception from Mike Daly coming up with the big one. The question now, of course, is that we've had 0 sacks once again this season, and it's becoming a bit of a frame. And we were up against a not especially mobile quarterback. I'm just pulling up the stats now for sacks to kind of bring up my point here. We are talking about some serious lack of really things going right with the sack core. Let's see here. Simone Lawrence 3 sacks. Don Unamba has 4. Just 1 sack from Adrian Tracy and 1 sack from Justin Capicotti. Those are your 2 starting defensive ends. That is kind of horrifying. Julian Hauschers had 1. Ted Laurence had 1. Mario Cooper, who's only played in 3 games, keep that in mind, has 1. So yeah, your leading sackers on this team are 4 sacks from Don Unamba and Ted Laurent. Man, we really do start generating some pressure. The collective defensive end core has only 3 sacks this season. Capicotti, Tracy, and Hauscher each with 1. Nothing from Jamal Westman since coming over. Nothing from Connor McGrath, who was the backup for Capicotti and rotational player there at one point. Concerning that this has not really been a thing that has been developing the way you really want it to. So we definitely need to figure out something about Glanville's system to generate pressure, because I don't feel that our secondary, particularly with Delvin Breaux possibly out, Richard Leonard already out, that is going to really culminate into holding teams down without being able to sack the quarterback or get consistent pressure, because we're really not even getting consistent pressure. It's not like quarterbacks are running for their lives and just getting away or whatever. And then I think the sack total is indicative of our lack of pressure. And that is something that I desperately hope to see change, particularly 2 weeks after Joe Montfort Appreciation Night. Anyways, the score at the end of this one, because we actually have not said it, was 42-28, 18 points in the fourth quarter. Great job down the stretch. Great start to the game. A little bit of a lull in the middle, just 7 points in the second quarter, 3 in the third. Was 21-14 at the half, but the Argos came out with a big third quarter, outscoring the Ticats 14-3. Let's talk about the Argos side of things. McLeod Bethel Thompson was held down pretty hard in this game. 14 for 29 for just 163 yards. 1 interception and no touchdowns. James Franklin did throw a touchdown pass of the game. 1 for 1 yards. James Wilder was held largely in check as well, so tallying 11 for 47. Through the air, he was their biggest target with 3 catches for 42 yards. S.J. Green held to 2 catches for 41 yards. Just some very unimpressive numbers on the Argos side of the ball, with the exception of Bear Woods, who had a massive game, recording 9 tackles, and Justin Tuggle, who had 6 well. Didn't have a lot of pressure on their end either. Actually, the Argos were held without a sack, though. I thought that there was more pressure on Jeremiah Masoli. Talking about Masoli, he does need to get rid of the ball a little bit faster, and I do still have concerns about the offensive line. Darius Scirocco, our rookie starting right guard, has been very, very good in one-on-ones, and I'm very, very impressed, and I think he will develop into an outstanding offensive lineman. But right now, he's a little bit raw. He is susceptible to being blitzed a little bit, and Brandon Revenberg is as well. So inside blitzes are a weakness for the Ticats right now, as those guards gain more experience and more ability to anticipate things and to pick up those blitzes. The problem, of course, remains at left tackle, where Avery Jordan has continued to play. He was better in this game, but he has not been great. Now, the Ticats have brought in a couple of import O-linemen who I'm kind of hoping maybe are part of the plan to beef up the position a little bit. They are, I'm just pulling Isaiah Fasnier, I don't know how to say that name. That is terrible. I apologize if I butchered that, but Kelvin Palmer is the other one. I've heard of Kelvin Palmer before. I think he might be season roster or something. Hopefully, maybe one of them will be the answer. We'll also probably see an import receiver come off the practice roster that in the past has been Rashad Lawrence. But we also do have Shakir Ryan along with newcomer Braylon Addison, who are options for that and could be of the injured Saunders if Saunders does indeed miss time. So we'll see how that shakes out in the receiving core. The team, of course, still has the injuries to Shabbat Chambers, Brett Golding, John Green, Nick Shorthill, Justin Vaughn, and Chris Williams. Williams is probably the biggest piece there, but actually I think an underreported story is Justin Vaughn, who I think is going to be a big part of this team going forward into the future. Once Ted Laurent is moved aside as he gets a little bit older over time, Justin Vaughn, I think, is a really solid player. Anyways, that was the game. We, of course, have the return date where we go down the QEW to Toronto to try to earn that back-to-back win over the Argos, which would be a big deal because, of course, the Argos, before playing us, lost to Montreal. If that happens, then you really got to start questioning a 3-8 Argo team. How competitive are they down the stretch? Can they really be a playoff threat? And does that really put the Ticats ahead in terms of getting to the playoffs? Because the general thought is that only 2 Eastern teams are going to make the playoffs. That is always the thought because the West is the much stronger division right now. Though I think it is less than it was last year. I think last year it was particularly terrible. I think the Ticats have taken a step forward this season. I think Ottawa's taken a step forward this season. I think the Argos have taken a step back, which is to be expected with Ricky Ray being out of the lineup, and Montreal's a complete mess. Which, by the way, Montreal has actually opened it up lately, winning 2 straight games because of under the tutelage, the leadership, the quarterbackness of Antonio Pipkin. So, can I gloat? Can I gloat about the whole Manziel thing? Can I really state that the idea that Manziel would instantly turn a team around and that I said that was complete bullshit? Can I finally take credit for that as saying I was right? Because he gets hurt. Montreal wins 2 very critical games with Pipkin at the controls. That's to me that's a sign of something. It's a sign of something. They won 21-11 over the Red Blacks this week, and Pipkin, not a great game. 18 for 27, 242 yards, and 2 interceptions. So, I mean, largely a big part of that was getting a very solid run game going. But Pipkin was part of that with 9 carries for 75 yards. So, I have to say it. Montreal, not as bad of a team as people were trying to make it out to be when they were trying to make excuses for Johnny Manziel. That's a big question. I think also the big question is this season with the Argos, we're really starting to put to test the idea of Mark Trestman, great coach, because, of course, Mark Trestman's success in Montreal was largely predicated on having Anthony Calvillo, and, of course, his success in Toronto with Ricky Ray. What can he do without, one of the all-time great quarterbacks? Because when you're talking about Calvillo and Ray, I mean, we're talking top 10, maybe even top 5 quarterbacks in the CFL history. So having to do it now with McLeod Bethel Thompson after his struggles with Jay Cutler in the NFL, this is a big season for Mark Trestman in that regard. I think it's kind of a put up or shut up season for him a little bit. Not that you have to win a great cup or put up a great record or something, but by the end of the season, one would have to think that the Argos have to be playing better than they did in this game to really justify Mark Trestman as an elite head coach. And it's kind of weird to be saying that because his numbers are absolutely fantastic, but it's one of these things where I think we give a lot of credit to coaches when it's not due. I think we also blame coaches a little bit more when it's not due. But I think we give them a lot of credit. Like in Hamilton, we have, of course, the thing with Ken Austin, where I have to argue with Ticat fans on a regular basis about why do you think Kent Austin is great? And the answers I always hear are, well, he won a Grey Cup with Saskatchewan. It's largely a team that was built before he got there. Made some good moves, okay, but it's not an endorsement of being a Wally Buono. Like, the way people talk about it is like a Wally Buono or a Don Matthews thing, and I think that's It's not correct. Then he went to Cornell University. Did not change Cornell's fortunes overly. Not that he was going to, but it's just not. It doesn't support a great coach's resume. Had the problems in Toronto running the offense. Wouldn't even make use of Ricky Ray. Proved that he was a very stubborn man at that. Or Ricky Williams proved that he was a very stubborn man at that point. And then in Hamilton, again, that over-reliance on the pass when it wasn't necessarily there, wasn't necessarily an option. And yes, 2 Grey Cups that we went to and lost, and we're very close and won. But you also have to think a little bit that, very, very weak Eastern Conference. Like, very weak. Montreal on the very downside. Toronto not doing so well. And, of course, a relatively young and inexperienced Ottawa Red Blacks team. In terms of being together, and with a coach that I don't necessarily rate terribly high, and Rick Campbell as well. So, the resume of Austin always was a little bit, I think, overinflated to hype him up. But anyways, that was the game. Ticats are now 5-5 on the season. We are, I believe, where are we in the Eastern Conference or in the Eastern Division? Ottawa is 6-4. We're 5-5, so we're 1 game back. We are 3-2 at home, 2-3 on the road, 2-1 versus our division. Really, very few division games actually in general in the East. I mean, you've got Toronto's only had 3 Eastern games. We've only had 3 Eastern games, and it's 5 for Ottawa and Montreal. Compared to the West, where you have 5, 5, 5, 5, and 6 for the BC Lions. So we have, you would think, a somewhat easier schedule boiling down. Like a lot of, we're just talking about how weak the East is, and we've got a lot of games left against the East. We have, of course, next week we're in Toronto. Then we host Calgary. That's going to be a tough one. Then it's off to BC for a little bit of Western taste. Back home against BC. Then we're going to be on the bye week. Then it's to the Argos, to the Red Blacks. Home against the Red Blacks. Then it's home at Montreal. So that's a big chunk there at the end. Four straight divisional games. So hopefully we can generate enough interest over these next 4 games or whatever to really have that as us just putting the icing on the cake on a solid playoff run, which I think is possible. I think this team is very, very good. But yeah, there's concerns. Bro and Leonard being down in the secondary, and then you got Williams and Saunders questionable. Williams pretty much definitely out. Saunders questionable in the receiving core. Some guys are going to have to step up over these next couple of games to keep things rolling. And that'll probably be the likes of Frankie Williams and Josh Johnson on the defensive side of the ball. Or perhaps we see veteran Courtney Stephen rise to the occasion and pick up a little bit of a starting role. Josh Johnson, though, has looked good. Replacing Mario Cooper last week and really stabilizing the secondary there. And he did a solid job in replace of Delvin Breaux also this week. So I feel pretty good about Josh Johnson. A little bit more worried about the receiver side of things. Because Jalen Saunders, massive part of this offense. So that is all. I hope you enjoy it. And go Cats go next week. And let's beat those Argos down yet again. And remind them that they do truly suck.